Okay, and we're live on YouTube. Okay, my friends and gems. So our continuation, we started on Facebook Live. We've got Ann Bandini here, and so we're going to talk about some very interesting things. As you're aware, we started off talking about taking inspired action, listening to your intuition. And so, Ann, thank you for being on this broadcast. I'm so happy and excited to be able to share you with this incredible audience that we have throughout the world. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I'm just doing absolutely amazing. I'm blessed and highly favored.
Yes, you are blessed and highly favored. You are the author of several books. What's the title of your most recent book, Anne?
Well, it's yet to be published. My last book was The Sojourner, Ladybug's Human, when I traveled across the USA and through 5 states in 3 years. I left California and I left at age 70. So you guys can know that that's a few years ago. So God has a sense of humor, and I've had quite an unusual life. As I tell my stories to people, I go, "What? I'm not like the normal person, I guess."
Thank goodness, because normal is overrated and boring. So I'm so glad that you are not normal, because neither am I. I tell all my friends I'm not normal. I'm kind of weird. And for those of you who don't know me real well, I'm a bit of a wordsmith. I love words, as does Anne. And, we're both published
Yeah.
authors. But the origins of the word weird come from the Welsh, which is weirda. That's the original
Okay.
of the word weird. And one of the things that I recognize, I learned about that when I was in my late 20s. So when I started having kids, and as soon as my kids were able to walk, I thought, I need to let them know that they're not normal. I'm not normal, and that's okay. We're all weird. And the word weirda means spirited in Welsh because
Well, I have to say that's true
spirited. So
on
because
both sides.
people who are a little different, that were more spirited and spiritual, were called weird in those days. This is like, 600, 700 years ago. And so I embrace that word. I embrace that label, if you will. It's like it's boring to be normal because it's like that makes you no different than anybody else. And the fact that I'm a little bit spirited and a little bit different kind of adds a little flavor and color to who I am as a being. And so I appreciate the weirdness in you, which is the spirit in you. So
And
that's kind of where I'm coming from. Does that make sense?
I like what you stated. It's a word that not a lot of people identify with, being, because we are spirit beings, and that's how we encompass. And that's why LifeWave is such an amazing company, because it has a spiritual foundation, and it's out of the heart of heaven and out of the heart of God. And we live in such an interesting time on earth, but we're all supposed to be here. I don't know, this thing keeps moving around here. I have a very limited space, unfortunately, at the moment, but that's subject to change.
No, but
And
it looks very beautiful. So let's get back into the nitty gritty because we've
yeah.
done a lot of things that are divinely inspired, and you've taken that intuitive and inspired action. And so about a year and a half ago, I know that I hadn't spoken to you in a while, and the pandemic, of course, the pandemic connected a lot of us, and it disconnected a whole other group of us for whatever reason. That's just how things worked. And so for some of my friends, I was, more talking to them more than ever. And then I had larger groups of friends, which we just stopped communicating and talking to each other for whatever reason. The reasons don't matter. The point is, I remember at a certain point in time, about a year and a half ago, I remember Anne's name just popped into my head. And I'm like, gee whiz, I haven't talked to her in a long time. And I thought prior to that, I had talked to her when I was living in Italy. So
Yep.
kind of a long gap of time had ensued. We've known each other for 10 or 15 years. And so I'm like, I wonder what she's up to. It's like I knew that I needed to call her in that moment. So as soon as her name popped into my head, I'm like, even though my plan was to do something else, I immediately picked up the phone and called her. And then
Excuse me. Sorry.
God bless you. So,
Thank
Anne,
you.
share with them where you were when I picked up the phone and said, Anne, how are you doing?
It was crazy. You weren't even in the country actually when I started on the patches. So I was in south of Metro Atlanta, and I lived in a beautiful mother-in-law suite, a miracle house for miracle price, on the whole bottom floor of a place that looked like it was right out of Beverly Hills. And my landlord, wonderful people, said they were going to be moving, and did I want to join them in another place north of Metro Atlanta? And he said, just go look at the place. And I said, sure, which I did. And then 3 days after packing and everything, and packing like you're going to go and just unpack, but not packing where this is here, this is here, and this is here, because it was all a lot going on. So they told me that there was still a construction zone, so I had no place to go. So I had 3 days notice to have no place to go. But I ended up living in that construction zone for a month. And then a door opened, because I didn't know where I was going to go, to be honest, to come over to North Carolina. And after I got here, I was so exhausted. I just was like a zombie, because I hadn't had any rest in so long. And my life was just a pretty chaotic. And so I got over here, and I was like, I felt like it was in a movie, like it was outer space, that I just didn't have anything connected, and I couldn't act like something was wrong with me, and I'm out pushing a baby carriage with my dear spiritual son and his beautiful British wife. And they don't know that I'm like that, but I'm not really there to stay with them. It's just supposed to be temporary. In the meantime, I did end up moving to where I am at the moment, and which was a couple of weeks later. And all of a sudden, I had so much pain I couldn't walk. And not only was I exhausted, I felt like everything was just heavy and shut down. And so I tried to contact you and say, I'm in pain. What is it you got? I'm so dysfunctional. 2 moves in 30 days, right? So you actually were in Europe, or I believe you were in Europe, and then you sent through someone else. I'm not even sure what patches were, but the next day I woke up, and it was like boom, like the whole, I could see again, and there was not this pressure and heaviness on me, and I could walk, and I had no pain. I mean, I couldn't pick a suitcase up. I was so exhausted. I couldn't walk up the stairs with a suitcase. I couldn't pick it up out of the trunk of my car and put it on the ground. So I don't know what you want to call that, but it was the beginning of my journey. And of course, I had to invest in the patches. And then I got COVID, because that was like the end of November. I got COVID, even though
November 22nd, you started, because I remember it was like 11 and then 22, which is 2 11s, right? And then 2022 when you started. And that was, I think that's significant, because these patches also have a Bible code embedded in them, which I never talk about, but that was revealed this weekend when I was at the leadership STEM.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that Dr. Stacy put together, and David came, or the scientist, and revealed that. And he's like, is this too much? And we're like, no, tell us more. And
yes.
So everything about this technology, there are Bible codes. There is sacred geometry.
I mean, I believe in all of that stuff even before knowing any of this stuff, because that's the path that I've been on for many years because of my mentor. So basically, not knowing that, of course, but needing anything, especially if it's a spiritual part of that, I ended up, I still work, because I didn't have rest in my spirit. And I began to feel the aging process, because when I knew you, I might have been a little overweight, but I was always very active. And I mean, when I left California, I did go through just this journey that it's just an unusual book. A friend of mine here read it in 2 days. I mean, people have read it, because really what I was a forerunner to what's happening now, to see it from different perspectives. That's what a sojourner is, a sent one, and you're a temporary resident. And I explained that. A lot of people don't understand that. And of course, Ladybug was my little adorable 5-pound toy poodle who's in heaven now, unfortunately. But God has been training us in different aspects of different things to understand the world that we live in today. And I think the interesting thing about getting patched was right after that, even though I was all around Metro Atlanta, when it was dead, it was like completely like a movie set. Nobody was there, except like if you'd return a car into the airport, It was all dusty cars, nobody to meet you, no one at the service desk. You just felt like you were in a war zone or a movie.
It's a very eerie feeling.
It was extremely eerie. And I prayed all the time during that time. And I just feel that's what I was there to go to these different parts, and how I learned a lot about Atlanta, the good and the bad. But right after, okay, so December 20, because I wasn't well, obviously, I just been on the patches a couple of days, and December 26th, I got COVID. And now I didn't, the whole time I was, running around Metro Atlanta, I did not, get sick. So I guess my body just said, it's time to rest. So I did have 2 months off, and I had to go through a lot of internal things, because I've been on this rat wheel for so long. And now all of a sudden I had like a fear, like, how am I going to sustain myself? And how do I understand this? And then all of a sudden I was telling people I'm on these patches. And I mean, I didn't even know how to get the money out of the iPay or anything. And people were saying, I want to know about those patches. I want to know about those patches. So, I mean, people just started signing up, and it was, because you signed them up. I didn't know how to do any of that,
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that, because sometimes you're set, and I mentioned it on the Facebook Live. Sometimes those setbacks are your setups.
Yes.
Give you a leg up to course correct you where you need to go. So I want you to guide, for the person who's watching this right now, it doesn't matter if it's directly on Zoom or on YouTube. I want you to realize and recognize that whatever perilous thing you're going through, whatever pain point you have, whatever, whether it's an illness, sometimes God will put us flat on our back and get us to stop all the normal everyday stuff to get our attention and to start to right size and right direct you in the place that you're supposed to be going. So there's a guy that I follow on YouTube. His name is Peter McKinnon. Has nothing to do with the patches, by the way, but it's so poignant because the beginning of January of 2024, because this broadcast is, here we are on the 27th of February of 2024. So just a few short months ago, he thought he was going to start the first week of January, hit the ground running. And he's a videographer, a very prolific videographer from Canada and photographer. And he has a lot of like celebrities as well as big name brands that solicit his services. And he's a beautiful creator. And he thought, I'm going to hit, the beginning of 2024. And he had his big long list of 150 things to do. Guess what happened? First 2 weeks of January, him and his kids all came down with COVID, flat on his back, sick as a dog. And he's like, oh no, this is not, nobody plans to get it. Nobody plans to get it. But you know what? The divine, our creator, God the Father, knows what's best for us.
Yeah.
And so he basically had him incubate. It's freezing in Canada in January, as you're already aware.
Imagine, yeah. It's really cold.
He was inside his home, stuck for 2 weeks, where he could not go anywhere, do anything, couldn't film, couldn't take pictures, couldn't do anything. So he stayed home with his kids and with his wife. His wife didn't get it somehow, but his kids and him were sick as a dog. And so he rested. And then after several days of rest, he pulled out a composition notebook, and ideas started to flood into his brain. Remember how I talked about at the beginning of the Facebook Live? If you came over from the Facebook Live, you know that I talked about taking inspired action. So he was inspired to write down, he had these ideas. He goes, well, I don't want to lose these, so let me take my notebook. Right now I can't do anything. I'm just laying, I'm just resting. I'm getting
right.
I'm recovering from this. I need to be incubated. I can't be interacting with others. So let me just hang here. He filled up the entire composition notebook. In fact, he filled up 2 composition notebooks with ideas, which will take him probably a year or 2 to implement. Now, had he not been put flat on his back and set aside, which if you look up the word to be holy, is set aside. You are being set aside for something very special. Exactly. Now, no one would choose to be sick. No one would choose to be in pain. No one would choose to be in a hospital bed. But sometimes that's why this is happening to you.
Right.
The only way you can look is up and go, oh, okay, well, I have nothing else better to do. I am pretty much bound to this bed now. Okay. So now you'll seek his face, and now you'll receive, because you're paying attention, and now you receive those divine downloads, which are jewels that are being bestowed upon you. And the same thing happened to you during that time of rest. You were able, because you're not able to do other things, you were set aside, you receive these divine inspirations. And then because you're not a moving target running everywhere, people could also get a hold of you and say, wait a minute, you're improved. It's like, how do you know, we want to learn about these patches. How do I get my hands on them? It's like, oh my gosh, can it work for me? It worked for you. Can it work for my sister? Can it work for my brother? And so the story goes. That setback is in fact your setup to
Right.
give you a hand up and a leg up so that you can quantum leap. If you don't get in your own way and don't start thinking, what am I doing wrong? Oh, everybody else does it better than I do. Everybody else can figure this out but me. If you can put that on pause and just stay in your right mind,
Right, right.
it can make all the difference in the world. So, Anne, what was, one of the things that, hindsight is 2020. Everybody knows that, sometimes looking forward, you can't connect all the dots because you're lucky if you just see one dot, maybe two dots ahead of you, but you don't really see, this is where I want to go, but you don't realize that it's like a whole series of dots and you only have
Right.
one or two steps. Looking back, you're like, oh my gosh, 15, 20 backs. I mean, when I sent you the patches, and I was actually at the stem cell conference in Europe when I called one of my friends and I said, you need to send my friend. I'm all the way in Europe. I can't send them from here. Would you send them to her? And they sent them to you.
Yeah.
That's how we roll. No way would you or I ever have thought or imagined that you were going to have molecular biologists, epidemiologists, scientists, doctors, biohackers. Your leg kind of has exploded. You have a huge group in Yelm, Washington. You've got another pretty big group that's in Texas. You have a pretty good group. They're pretty much spread throughout the country. There's a few sprinkled throughout the world, but you have some, there's no way we could have anticipated all these scientists coming on through you saying yes to the patches, which originally it was just to help you relieve the pain and to remove and to dissipate the fog that you had from all the
Exactly.
things that you had going on.
Well, also because I'm, with the exception of the last couple of years, I haven't really done the things that I did in California, but I didn't ever feel like I've never been on medication except natural thyroid. I've never, for all my years, taken medications. So, that's the hardest thing is once you join Medicare, you're going, what for? Because they want to apply you or like, well, give us a list of your medicines. I'm like, nothing. And they think you're like,
You're an alien. You're
yeah,
weird. You're like,
no
yes, I am
surgeries, one birth. I had my tonsils out at 5. And so, we don't have to live sick. But, I do believe that we go through process of where we don't take care of ourselves and we are more vulnerable,
Absolutely.
because I think the thing also with the COVID, I found out I lost a lot of hair, and that was weird because I have so much hair. Every time I get my hair cut, they go, "You got so much hair." Senior women usually don't have a lot
Yeah.
of hair,
Yeah.
but I know that in LifeWave, people have grown back hair. Their hair has become their color that they used to be. But I was like, "What's going on with my hair?" I just like put my hand through and it'd be all over everywhere. And so when I saw the dermatologist, she said, "Yes, it's 5 months after you have COVID." But your bulbs are great and everything, your hair is going to grow back. As I thought, well, maybe I'm not going to have so much hair now. But see, I didn't know, and I hadn't been on the patches that long. So it's just a lot to learn. And I think that was a thing for me. It's like always a learner, but like we found out here, technology is not my suit, but
But
in
you can
God's name, I
learn.
will get stronger at that. I will learn. And then the other part of it is, let's see what I was going to say about, I spaced out here about what I was saying, but
Yeah, you were just talking about how, you're basically your doctor's telling you it's like, yeah, it's 5, 6 months after COVID. So now
right.
you're
Well, I
it's a
think the
shedding of
oh,
hair,
it's
growing back new hair.
okay. I know what it was. It's the pinpoint was learning what is biophotomodulation or whatever? I mean, what is that? I mean, speaking another, it's like going to a foreign nation and speaking another language.
Yeah.
And all of you wonderful people who are already educated or been in something that is actually a business. I mean, it was like, how are we going to learn all that? So that was kind of my time to study a little bit. But actually, January of this year, I took the month to really study the patches more, because my life was not a settled life and I didn't feel the rest of God. And so, there's something called rest, there's something called abiding rest. When you get into abiding rest, it's like someone told me years ago, storm, 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 stay in the eye of the storm. And the eye of the storm it's battling everywhere. I mean, I don't think people will deny that we have some of that going on today in our lives, our world. And where are you going to not be affected? In the eye of the storm. So that means that you come into the rest of God, and it's chaotic sometimes, but you don't deviate from that place. And that's when you just totally dependent on, he's got you handled. And see, that's the thing, I used to think I could do everything. I was a one-arm paper hanger. I'd have about 20 things done by 8:30 in the morning and, walk 2 miles or whatever, And I'm not exactly in that place right now, but that doesn't mean that we age, because I do believe that there's a process that I have to go through to restore things that I haven't been disciplined, but it's just some other conditions. And you and I had a wonderful conversation today about the aspects of learning what is the true way if you're going to do this as a business. And there were some points that were very poignant. And so we can have our health, we can also have wealth. And it may not be like instant, but I can't think of anything else right now on the world that's stable enough that would do the best thing than to be involved with this company. This company is beyond.
It
I
is.
mean, really.
And what we're looking, our number one purpose and passion is to facilitate, educate, encourage, and empower people to have enough information where it's like, look, this little tiny patch that's just 3 centimeters, it's a little bit bigger than an American quarter. This is the most powerful technology that we have on planet Earth right now. It has the ability to unring the bell of damage that you may have in your body by whatever means, whether you consciously did it, whether it was an accident, whether it was an inadvertent, where you just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and you are now suffering the consequence of that. Things happen. We're humans. And so guess what? Whether it's bad surgery, whether it's something that you took in, like not too long ago, not even 6 months ago, I ate a piece of beef that had been injected, large amount penicillin. I'm allergic to penicillin. Had I known that, I wouldn't have eaten that piece of beef, because I normally don't even eat beef, but I happened to be out with a group of friends and I thought, okay, what's the healthiest thing menu on the, everything was red meat at this restaurant because it was a barbecue place. So I said, let me go ahead and do the tri-tip. Yeah. Then I had a massive, which I talked about in my Facebook Live with Dr. Galley, who is part of our team. And he said, yeah, he goes, had you not been on the patches, you maybe would have gone into anaphylactic shock, because you had a severe allergic reaction that you had everything but your airway closed up. So luckily I was on the patches, but it still took 90 days for that to clear up. The bottom line is that this is a life-saving technology. Originally created for the Navy SEALs. It was not originally created for the public, because the Department of Defense came to David saying, what can you do to enhance the energy of our Navy SEALs? Because right now they're on amphetamines, uppers, energy drinks, which work, but they're very hard on their bodies. And when the effects diminish and wear out, their bodies crash, and it's very hard on them. And so that's when the first patches became available. So my friends and gems, I would love to continue. I could talk to Ann for hours and hours, because she is such a wealth of information, but I want to give you guys an opportunity. I promised you, Ann and I have committed to coming on here live several times a week. We might be lucky and do this 3 to 5 times a week. Maybe we'll get luckier and be able to do this every day for the next several months moving forward, because we are passionate about impacting and improving your life. And this might be the one piece of technology that will make all the difference in your life, to unring the damage that you have experienced, either through an accident like myself, an accident not only being hit by a bus, but also the accident of eating a piece of beef that I did not know had penicillin, because I'm highly allergic to penicillin. didn't matter. That was repaired through this little stem cell activation patch. And like Anne, in her condition, we all have different pain points. And whether you're getting to remove toxins from the body, nothing in the body is permanent. Our bodies are smart bodies. They know how to change and adjust and adapt to whatever it is to keep you alive. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be in pain, but it'll do whatever's required to keep you alive. And if it's above the pay grade where it can keep you alive, then of course you pass. Our thing is to catch you before that point comes and unring the bell of damage, whether it's toxification, whether it's disease, or whether it's trauma in the body. So, Anne, what's the name of your YouTube channel so that you can share that with people here?
Well, it's under my name, Ann Bandini, and then the title is Original Restored Culture, which has been my title. And this is part of that is I knew wellness, especially after what I saw, how it affected, what people went through in the last about 5 years ago, 4 years ago. It was really very difficult for a lot of people. And then, of course, out of lack of education, or maybe you'd say ignorance, a lot of people were coerced to do something that wasn't the best thing for them. So what I loved about David Schmidt is the fact that he gave us the education on how to reverse anything or how to engage things to restore things, because there's been a lot of very, very challenging things for people. And, we all know what those are on every level. Yeah.
So in closing here, I put here in the chat so that you guys can see the correct spelling of Anne's name. It's Ann, and then last name is Bandini, Bandini. I want to call attention for those of you who are into angel sacred numbers and are into, different Hebrew terminology. I want you to recognize her first name, Ann, A-N, that is implying to you that it's angelic. She also have it. She's like a double angel. She also has it in her last name, Bandini, Bandini. So that being said, Anne, would you give us your email so that people who want to shoot you an email can reach you by
Absolutely.
email? And then the rest of them, they can reach you through your YouTube channel. And then if you want to give them your number, then we can take that down. What's the best email for them to reach you?
Yeah, it's very interesting. You may not remember this, but I took that email when I met you years ago, and you said, I really like that. It's TURNIT, around, AROUND 123 @gmail.com. Turn it around 123 @gmail.com. And that's what the LifeWave is doing.
That is what LifeWave is doing. Okay, so Ann Bandini, turn it around 123 @gmail.com. I'm putting it here in the chat, and we will put it also in the comments of this YouTube channel. I want to encourage you guys to check Ann's YouTube channel, subscribe, make sure you like her most recent video. Wait till you listen to her most recent video that she posted just recently. Like that video. I'd like for you to also hit the notification bell so that every time she goes live, you'll learn about her incredible message and the gifts that she has to impart with you. And then please do comment, because that engagement and that interaction shows us that you're interested in this. It also tells the YouTube algorithm that, hey, she's responsive and you're getting also engagement and getting your questions answered. And we are here every day at 2 p.m. doing a Zoom at 2 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Pacific time, sharing about more nitty gritty about the patches. But we want to talk about broader things when we come on live, both on these Zooms as well as Facebook Live. So thank you, my friends and gems. Thank you, my beautiful Ann Bandini.
Thank you.
Double Angel. Thank you for all you do.
Honored to be here.
Being a wonderful messenger for the divine. And as always, ciao for
Love
now.
you. Love you.
too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.